Hello and welcome. I could see you up to a second ago. Now I can't see you anymore. I'm Carsten. This is Rolf. Let's launch right into this. You already heard Trivago is one of the leading hotel meta search engines in the world, on track to making €1 billion of revenue this year. Interestingly, founded back in 2005 when most people here at least still thought the internet was a fad that would go away again. You went public last December, and you are based to this day in Düsseldorf. You've just come back from Asia. What do you tell people in Hong Kong? Where is Düsseldorf?
It's not that easy. No, actually, I mean, the problem with Düsseldorf is, that people usually don't want to go there. The good thing is with Düsseldorf, people usually don't want to leave it again. So it's actually way better than you would think. And the problem is always the brand perception. Yeah. So you have to make clear that we always come up with statistics. That Düsseldorf is one of the most livable cities in the world, which is actually true. It's very nice. Still, I don't think that people would ever come to Düsseldorf or to Trivago because of Düsseldorf, and maybe that's a little bit different here in Berlin, and that's a big advantage when you're in Berlin, that it's just a cool city and it has a great brand. It has a great international brand, and so international people like to come here. And for us in Düsseldorf, that's a little bit harder.
You have 10, I looked at it this morning, you have enough job openings to fill 10 pages of paper like this. Then what is it that you tell people, hey, come to Düsseldorf because you're going to have fun?
See, I think people really decide for Trivago first. And I think, I don't know, many reasons, hopefully, to decide for Trivago. But I think that people more and more understand that Trivago is an extremely innovative company, which I think is something that, sometimes when you're established for quite a while, especially in Germany, so people know that we are around for quite a while, so people sometimes forget that. And sometimes forget that we are a very technology-driven company, that we are really in the forefront of technology and what we're doing, that we are a next generation search engine, compared to first generation, where you could say Google, for example. And I think people start to understand that. And interestingly, it's even more international people than Germans. So currently we hire about 80% of people that we hire from across the globe. So less than 20% actually come from Germany. And the good thing is, see, when you decide for Berlin, then it's or for a startup in Berlin, then you can easily say, hey, I'm in this cool city, I have the lifestyle, I work for startup A today, or for tech company A today, and then tomorrow you can work for tech company B. So basically you identify a lot with the city, and maybe a little less with the company. When people come to Trivago, they really come because of Trivago. And so sometimes it's a little bit harder to get people over, but it's maybe easier to keep them there. And when you're looking at the fluctuation at Trivago, it's extremely low. Yeah? So when you're looking at the fluctuation of people when they once turn to Trivago, come over to Trivago, nearly nobody is leaving us. It literally, nearly nobody is leaving.
You just said that you want to turn Trivago into a new kind of search engine as opposed to an old style like Google. I think I heard two people in Mountain View scream loudly when you said that. What exactly is it? Where do you see Trivago differing? What is the new element?
I always think it's super hard to keep a company innovative from a specific size on, and I think Google has been around for a very long time, and they have lots of resources. But I cannot believe into a future where there is one site which explains to the world. I can believe into company who searches through all the websites that exist and organizes them. You know? But I cannot believe into one company that explains to the world.
So you're saying Google is just too broadly positioned to really go deep in one segment like hotel search?
I think it's really hard. I think there is a natural limitations of organization. And you can extend that barrier. So you can, even with a large organization, still be very creative. But it becomes harder and harder. And the marginal return you get on additional people you add to a problem gets smaller, just because of organizational overhead. And that's why I think there is a natural limitation for a company, and there will not be one company explaining you the world. That's my true belief. So I see in the moment where a company becomes larger, it gets more likely to be disrupted. And that's true for all the companies, and it's true for Trivago as well as for Google or others. So I don't believe into this company who explains to the world. I rather believe into platforms, and I believe into maybe vertical search engines, which are very specialized on one topic. I rather believe into that than into one company explaining the world, because I think the expectation of a user in the future is not anymore that I have to search myself through like top result lists and look for information on websites. The expectation of the user in the future will be that they directly get presented what they are looking for, even without telling us what they are looking for.
How do you want to get there?
So I think you have to really be very careful identifying signals that users give to you, and I think a user gives you lots of signals, intentionally and unintentionally, and these signals can be used to create a learning system on it, and that then on one side profiles the user's interest, and on the other side for us profiles the hotel. And then we have to find a language how both come together, basically, and then create a learning system that gets better and better in identifying that. So that is what we are doing from a tech side, but that's basically like our whole company is based on that, more or less.
As an outside observer, I would think nobody knows people better than Google and Facebook.
That is actually one of the issues, yes, and that's why it's not that easy. So I think first of all, where Facebook or Google have like a big advantage is of course in knowing users across different channels. The question is though how available this information will be in the future. So if you see the tendency of how available this information today already is, and how it develops over time. So I rather believe into kind of a like virtual accessible identity. Where you say, okay, and this virtual identity exists, and the marginal cost of it is pretty low. So I think the marginal cost of tapping into that identity will be pretty low. So I think this information will be rather more than today publicly available, or broadly available. So I'm not such a big believer into like, let's say, proprietary user information.
Then you want a kind of open source me for all of us?
An open source me, I think yes, it might be an open source me, and might be even a controlled open source me. I mean blockchain, and so you might be able to control very specifically your identity in the future. It will be way easier to control it. Mm-hmm. You might need tools and software to control your virtual identity, but it will be also more accessible. So I mean think of it how inefficient it is right now, that basically you putting in information about yourself into so many different websites, right? So, but you're not giving that information to one, right? You're giving that information right now, you're giving it to many, very openly. So the thing is, if information is already stored twice, the marginal value is 0. Right? Because if you would have a bidding system and two offer the same information about you, the price will go down to 0. Meaning that there will be the value of that information will rather go down, because there is so much information of us available already in the internet. It just has to be a marketplace where this comes together. So when that happens, Big
Okay.
question mark, yeah. But I think the path is towards that is pretty clear. Yeah, that's I think it's not really doubtable.
You told me, switching topics a little bit, you told me when we prepared this talk, you told me that Trivago itself is set up as kind of a learning system, is designed to be a learning system as a company. What does that mean? How does that work?
So, I mean, I explained it a little bit around the product, and I explained like, how we create a learning system basically which becomes better and better. And I think it's important that companies also created like a learning system. Yeah? A learning system, for example, has two things. First of all, it has perfect information. So every individual has perfect information. So that's like basically if you take an AI system, if you want to use that buzzword, if you take an AI system, it has two things. First of all, there's lots of information coming in, which is where you can base your learning on. And the second thing, it has an unbiased system on which it takes decision based on that information. Yeah? So there is basically like a factor, like a criteria on which this learning happens. Mm-hmm. And the good thing is, as long as there is a positive correlation between that criteria and the outcome, the system will continuously learn. It might be wrong in 45% of the cases, but as long as it is right in 55%, it continuously learns. And and the path is clear. So there is no doubt that it becomes smarter and smarter and smarter. The question is just how fast it becomes smarter.
Do you have an example of where you as a company changed path because you learned something through this?
I think what we're trying to do, first of all, we're trying to do the same thing. So first of all, information has to flow through the company, yeah? And it has to be super transparent. I mean, that's not new. Yeah? That's basically when people speak about digitalization, that's what they mean, basically. Yeah? So every process is basically based on information. It's truly transparent. That's not new. I think what people underestimate is the second part. So I think what people understand is they need information to create a learning system. What they underestimate is that they also need an unbiased system. Mm-hmm. And that is what people underestimate in digitalization. It's not about the information. It's not about transparency. It's about the unbiased system. Meaning, A/B testing, cool thing. Basically, A/B testing is a part of a learning system, right? If you just continuously have the same criteria and you basically focus your whole company on A/B testing, you start to do 1, at the end you do 50 at the same time, you do 200 at the same time, and so on. Create a learning system evolving over time, right? And that's a perfect learning system, like your website with A/B testing. And you can do A/B testing everywhere. But the problem is now, if you put this information, if you put it on on a biased system, you will not create continuous learning anymore. Meaning, in the moment where there's somebody sits in the company and he says, yes, the information is telling me A, but I still do B, because basically, my job is at risk if I do A. I might not want to take that risk whatsoever. My boss telling me B, and so on and so on. So there is lots of reasons why, although the data is telling you what to do, you take another decision.
But then,
and that is a problem. And that is a problem. If you have an organization which at the end is doing political decision, as much information as possible is not helping you. And that is what I'm saying, like when I speak about like large corporations turning to digitalization and saying now we digitalize, and then they put their consultants in who basically try to digitalize the processes. See, that doesn't work if you not change the whole culture of the company. And that's the hardest thing to do. I mean, creating a culture which is truly unbiased is an extremely hard thing to do. It's okay to do it for a company with 3 people, or 10 people, or 100 people. But it gets more and more difficult if it's going to 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 or like Google 50,000, whatever. It's so hard to create an organization which stays unbiased.
But then how do you prevent it? For example, of course, it's two things anyway. You as a new company kind of building, whereas other people have the inertia of established structures. But if I take what you just explained to the extreme, I would say, well, get rid of all middle layer management, replace it by learning systems and AI systems that make decisions, because they don't fear for their jobs and they will only make decisions based on the learnings.
Yeah, I mean, that's happening. I mean, that's happening. If you're looking at the world, not even at Trivago, I mean, exactly that's happening. And for a reason, but you know, I mean, then you exchange some middle management, and then you have some higher management who's still taking the wrong decisions. So I mean, no, I think what you need to do is basically you have to turn the pyramid, the information flow, and the decision making. You have to turn it upside down. So you really have to move it. Once you have to move it around, otherwise it's not working.
So bottom up. Is there even an up anymore in what you're describing, in this flexible, hyper-agile structure?
Yeah, it's definitely less an up anymore.
No hierarchies.
The question is, yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of that in there, because at the end, you have to share a common idea, and you have to share a common direction, where you want to go. And I think for that it's important that you have some people who communicate the common idea, who inspire people, and who unite people around that purpose. And those, you need those people. If you want, you know, where they are located, and if you want to say they are top or down or whatever, but you need some people doing that.
How do you yourself structure Trivago when you have all these insights, when you've come to all of these conclusions?
We also A/B testing within the company, so we have several different systems. Some of them we rolled out now through the whole company. But for example, one example how our product team works, yeah, and it's like our core, let's say our core hotel search team. So we have several pillars. Some is caring for the commercialization, basically doing the whole marketplace and everything. One is rather marketing, but let's just speak about the main pillar, which is creating the product. So for that, we started now to maybe nearly get rid of all team structures. We don't have teams anymore. We have just a pool of talents. In this pool of talents, you find engineers, you find designers, you find Q&A people, product people, and so on. And they are totally free to do projects that they support. So they tell to which project they're going and which project they're supporting. They can also do nothing at all. And they say, okay, this is where I want to go, or this is where I want to go. This does something with people. It turns basically around the whole idea of leadership, because right now, basically, somebody thinks he's super smart, comes up with a super smart idea about the product, and then he says, okay, this is my idea, can you now please create like the feature for that? And then you create a feature, and then you bring it down to the developers, and then you give them a task to produce part of the feature. At the end, the developer maybe doesn't even understand what that exactly is for. Yeah? He does it because he has to. The problem is, it's a creative work. The factor of motivation in creative work, and everybody of us can, I think, hopefully identify with that. The factor of motivation is maybe not even a 2x, it's a 5x or a 10x. So if I'm really motivated to do something, and everybody of us knows that, you can do something in 10 minutes, which you usually need 2 hours, right? So, and that is different. I mean, that's different from like 50 years ago, where people were standing at the production line, and when the production line was running twice as fast, they could produce twice as many products. Yeah? Or if they would stay there for 50% longer, they could produce 50% more products. Today, time is not at all a measurement anymore. Yeah? I think it's not possible. You cannot make people do something. You cannot tell people that's what you have to do. You can just inspire them. You can motivate them. You cannot substitute intrinsic motivation by anything. Not by paying people dependent on any kind of weird performance metric, not by giving them any kind of OKR or goal or whatever that they have to follow blindly. Yeah? That's not how you create value. You have to see, like, how can you motivate people and how can you inspire them and how can they make the goal of the company, how can they make that their own goal?
Last question before we go to the questions from our audience. There must be situations where you say, but we as the leaders, the captains on the ship, we believe that we need this feature, do it. In your system that you just described, that's not possible. You said nobody has assignments.
But how can that be? So how can I be super convinced about something and not able to find enough people who would go for that feature? How can that happen? So either I didn't think about it enough, and it's not as good as I thought, or I don't have enough information, or I'm just very bad in inspiring people. But it has to be me at the end. There's no other person for that responsible. Yeah. So and the problem is, okay, I can't tell people now to do it, but then they will do it with way less motivation, and they will do it maybe instead of in 10 minutes where they could do it, they will do it in 2 days. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so basically, you always have the problem of motivation. Just in the moment where you take the power away from people, that they can tell people to do something, it just gets visible. That's the only difference. It just gets transparent.
Fits nicely in a way with our first question, which is, what is Trivago going to look like in 2025?
I think the question is it on the product side or is it on the company side? But I think on the product side, first of all, 2025, that's now 7 years. If somebody of you guys will tell me what's in 7 years, nobody of you can tell me what's in 7 years. The times are over where people could make plans for the next 5 years, even for the next 3 years. It's impossible, I can't tell you. Because we will see totally new interfaces popping up. I think that what we are working on is, we see Trivago as a service, not as a website. So Trivago is a service who gets you into your ideal hotel. The interface might be a website right now. The interface might be, I don't know, a voice interface, a messenger interface. It might be a brain interface. Who knows? Yeah? The important is that we deliver the perfect service. Yeah? And then the interfaces, they might change. Yeah? And hopefully we will deliver you a better service in 7 years, and you will be able to find your ideal hotel. From a company perspective, I don't know. I think we will move to a way more flexible system of working. Generally, I believe that people will, if you just follow if you're looking at what happened in the past, right? So the time where people were working for a specific company gets shorter and shorter generally. Yeah. So we're always looking for new tasks. So how do we avoid that at Trivago, that people are leaving us? We rotate people into new positions all the time. Yeah, so they stay in one position for a year, then they go in a totally different position. They've been in marketing before, now they work in tech. They have been in tech before, now they work in HR. They have been in working HR, and so on. So we move them around because we believe that people have to learn faster and they have to get into new perspective way soon, and that we are profiting from it as a company. So there will be way more liquidity in the way we work. And maybe Trivago doesn't even exist as a company anymore, but just as an idea with lots of people working at it, with sharing a specific culture. But it might not, as a physical company, it might not even exist anymore like this.
That would be a nice way to end this. We have 1 minute roughly for one last question, which goes back all the way to the beginning. You, of course, have a chicken and egg problem as any startup. How do you initially acquire customers for something that is brand new? How did you get going?
So how do we acquire customers for Trivago? I think probably none of you have seen the TV advertising. That's probably why you're asking that. No, I mean, see, for us, for Trivago, one thing is really important. We really want to get people directed to Trivago, and we want to associate the search for hotel with Trivago.
But how do you do this when you're just starting out?
When you're starting?
When you're starting out, that was the question.
It's easier than you think, actually. So I mean, when we started with TV marketing, we started with, I think we spent 5K for a spot and 20K for our first media campaign. We didn't have any budget. Trivago has been built with just 700K in capital the whole time. So we're now an 8 billion company, 700K capital inflow. So 700 to 8 billion. So we never had money. We never had money a lot of money to invest. We just were looking at results very detailed and incremental results, and we were trying to build systems which are so, like just becoming, again, learning systems which just become better and better and better. And the same thing we're applying also in TV marketing. Like our creative approach to TV marketing is very creative but democratic in a way. And we use lots of data, we using learning systems in the creative development as well as in where we air the spots and so on and so on. And then it's not about big budgets. We never have a budget. So we don't have budgets in anything.
I think that gives a lot of startups hope that might start the same way. With that, our time is over. Thank you very much for listening here and out there somewhere. Many thanks.